in a place where it's nice and open and sunny and warm. But now we're just at the edge of something different. Look over there. Okay, memorize it. Now turn around back this way and look behind you. Look at the thing. Totally different. What's one word that you might say to describe what's ahead of us?
Green.
Shady. Well, closer. We're going to get a lot closer. So it's shady. It's cool. So this is the habitat for redwood forest. Oh, habitat. What's that word mean? Habitat. It's a home. It's a place where animals or plants or people who ever live. Okay. So let's go on into this. Over here. Can I see those eyes again, please?
Yes.
I know I can see your eyes. We're
You
listening.
guys need to be here on this side of Mike.
Okay, thank you. You can see how many fingers I'm holding up. You're in a good spot. X-ray vision. Okay. This is the time, folks, that if you're ever proud of your city, proud of the place where you go to school in Oakland, California, and Cracker, proud of the place you call home, Oakland, California, this is the place time you should be really proud of this place because we are going into a very important special forest that lives in Oakland, California, the redwoods. We are right on the edge of the forest, folks. We're about to go in. When we walk out this way, we'll be about to go out. There are some animals and plants that like to live right on the edge of the forest. The edge of the redwoods is very important. If you like sunny spots, but you like to fly in and eat something that lives in a shady spot, this is the place to be. If you like hanging out in shady spots, but you like to be able to walk out or slither out and catch some sunshine, this is the place to be. So within this big habitat of the forest, that edge is a nice habitat. Yes. Oh man, let me see that. Oh man, what are termite tracks? Termites, bugs, worms that are eating little trails underneath the bark of the tree, of the branch. And so they might find a place to live, might find it a place to eat, but it is kind of a nice piece of artwork, don't you think? Yeah. Kind of bug art. Okay, when we go in and you folks feel like you are really deep in the middle of the forest, let me know, okay?
Do you want to just point out this tree, Mike?
What's that? Oh my gosh. Okay. Does anybody have any idea why somebody would call Oakland, Oakland? What kind? Oaks. Right above us. This is a beautiful tree called a live oak tree. A live oak tree means that it's green and it's got its leaves all year long. Other oak trees, like other trees, sometimes drop their leaves in the wintertime because they're done growing. They're going to take a little snooze all winter long. They just drop their leaves. So you just hang out, wait for the next spring to come around, and then they grow new leaves. Live oaks, they live in a place where, you know what, it doesn't get that cold in the wintertime. I can just keep my leaves out and keep eating all winter long. It's a great place to live for coast live oaks. Coast live oaks. Beautiful trees that can live to be hundreds, not tens, not 20s, but hundreds of years old. And right where we live, folks, and a lot of folks live right there in Crocker Highlands. Before all those houses were built, that was a big oak forest through there, a big oak forest. And you know who lived there for thousands of years? Anybody know? Who was living here before people came over from Europe and from Asia and things like that? Who was living here already? Yeah, way before George, way before George. The Indians, the Native Americans in California called this place home too. Oh, do we have any Indians left? Yeah. Absolutely, we got lots of Indians left. They live in the forest. Oh, they're India Indians, but they're also Native American Indians. But they live in all the places that we do. They live like everybody else does. But before Europeans showed up, we had people living here, thousands of people. This was probably the biggest population center in North America because it's such a nice place to live. Lots of Indians. Does anybody know the name of the Indian group that called this place home? Have you talked about the Indians?
Not yet. We're going next month to Coyote Hill.
Oh, you gotta find. Okay. Let me hear this word. You ready? Ohlone.
Ohlone.
Ohlone. Ohlone. Those are the folks that called and still call Ohlone. Okay. Let's go in the forest. Let's put our hands on
It runs your, like, I want to back when you run.
Oh, that was really strong, but we cut up, some of our rangers cut off the low branches so you won't bump into them. Has anybody here ever climbed a tree? Like climbing trees? Tree climbing is so great. Oak trees are great. Now, oak trees are great for climbing because they have branches way down low. Redwood trees, very nice, but lousy for climbing. Look at those skinny little branches. I mean, are you gonna climb that? No chance. They're lousy for climbing, but look where are the branches? They're way up high, closer to the sun. And they have those leaves out there to turn that sunshine into food for this tree. When you're down here, thinking, who needs branches? I don't need branches down there. Let's put our hands down, folks. Hands down. Thank you very much. Also, what happens if there's a fire?
Oh, it'll fall down.
They won't burn. There aren't that many branches down low, so it won't really catch fire all over. Now, everybody find a tree if you can find one, and just feel this bark. And let's just go ahead. It's kind of spongy. Way to not burn when all the other plants are burning. Then you have the whole place to yourself. Nobody's going to take your water. Nobody's going to take your soil. You just let them burn and you stay nice and happy. Now, don't you think that bugs will be happy in this bark?
No, because they will burn. They will die.
No, the bugs hate the stuff. They hate the stuff. They chew on it. It's all gross. They spit it out and they go away. So they don't have many bugs. They don't have many pests. So if you're building a house, people thought, hey, if they don't like them in the forest, they won't like it at my house or my deck or any buildings that are built with redwood so it doesn't rot. The bugs don't chew it up. So it's really a nice thing to build with. But what happens if we chop them all down just to build? Do we have any left?
No, and then there will be no trees.
So then we want to remember, okay, it's really good for using for wood, it's really good for using for decks and for houses and stuff, but it's also really cool to have this park in Oakland for us to go to, for everybody to enjoy, for the animals to live in, and to be around long after we're gone. So we realize that it's good for a lot of different things. We can take care of it a whole lot better. Who likes eating apples?
Me! Wait,
Okay.
apples?
You like getting around the outside, and then you have that one little part left in the middle that you don't like so much. What's that? The core. We were at the edge of the forest a moment ago, but now, no sunshine, not much breeze blowing through here, lots of shade, plants are all different. This is very different than what it was over there. We call this the core of the forest. What do we call it? Core of the forest. So we have the edge, we've got the core. Okay? Very important things. If you live in the core, you may not want to go way over there to get to the sunshine. You might, you know what? I like living in the core. I'm hanging in the core. I love it in the core. I'm staying in the core. So different animals and plants live in different parts of the forest. Okay. 1, 2, 3, gentlemen, and who's this? Hey, come on over, folks. Come on over. Thank you very much. I keep using that word community. We live in a community. Some people live in different kind of communities. Some people like communities where it's hot. Some people like communities where it snows. Some people like communities with lots of restaurants, like communities with lots of schools, lots of different kinds of communities. This is a plant community where a lot of different plants live together. And even though we call it a redwood forest, there are a lot of other plants that grow in there. And one of them that I would have walked right by, had this thing not reminded me of it, is something that we love having in, who likes pasta? Spaghetti sauce? Oh, man.
Me.
Yep. So can you tell us what kind of leaf this is, Miss Ann?
This is a bay leaf. A laurel bay?
A bay, or we call it a bay laurel, but a bay leaf. Let me hear that. A bay leaf. Now bay leaves, we know that redwoods taste terrible. Bugs go, spit it out, grossed out, they don't want to eat them. Bay leaves are kind of the same, although some animals do like to eat them. Check that out. Some bugs eat them, but not that many. Bay leaves like growing where it's shady. They like growing where it's cool. And they're very handy for a couple of different things. We talked about the Indians that used to call this place home, the Ohlonies. They would use these things for a lot of different purposes. One of them was they would squish them up and make a nice, with some water and such, and they would wash off poison oak.
Ew.
Anybody here had poison oak before? Itchy plant? We'll see some probably a little bit later on. But it's really good for that. But also, it's great spice, and if you put a whole bunch of it on your forehead, they say it takes your headache away. I'd like you to do this. Can I have some bigger hands to help out, please?
Adults?
Oh, I meant adult. Bigger than that. Yeah. So if you could just squish. So what I ask the adults to do is squish up these leaves in their hands and put them in front of the scholars' noses and see if we can tell just from this if we're in a redwood forest or not. I think we can. We can probably can. Oh man, I want that in my smell from here. Okay, would you please thanks? Okay, just squish it all up, squish it up.
That's like so good.
What's your neighbor's smell? What's your neighbor's smell? Whoa, that is hot. Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead.
People put bay leaves in soup for flavor.
So really flavorful, but the bay leaves that we cook with are a little different kind. They grew up in Oregon, and they are, oh, that's okay, thank you. And they're not quite so strong and spicy as these ones are. So if you're going to cook with these, be careful. Man, they get really strong and kind of overpower your soup or your pasta sauce. So you want to just be careful. So even if it were dark outside, we had no idea where we were, we had blindfolds on, and all we did was smell this place. And you say, aha, we've got to be in a redwood forest because that's where the bay leaves like it. So just by using our nose, we can tell where we are too. Okay, let's go. 2 places in the redwood forest. One was on the edge, and one was that apple center, the core. There's also another part that's very important in a lot of redwood forests. If it's really wet, and they like the rain, they like the fogginess, the water's going to fall off and go to the ground and drain into little streams. Guys, put the feet on the ground. Come on over here, thanks. We call that the stream, but you could also call it the riparian. Let me hear that. Riparian. That means it's a stream. Now a stream needs what? Water. But if there's no water, does that mean the stream's gone? No. Just the water's gone. A stream is like a recipe. One part of that recipe is water, but the rest of it, rocks, fish, newts, bugs, trees. And one of the couple of very important trees in riparian are these guys. One of them is this one. It loves growing in the water. And when Duncan, my son Duncan, was really young, we bought one of these trees and we put it next door to our house because there's a spring and a lot of water there. It has grown like the wind. It's grown so big. This tree loves the water, and it's got a cousin whose first name is Weeping.
Weeping willow.
This is a willow. Let me hear that. Willow. If you see a willow, you know you were at the riparian zone. You know that they only like living when there's lots of water, so you know this willow tells us that we are near the creek. Willows are also very handy for something. Have I given anybody a headache yet? Feet on the ground, guys. I will later. Yeah, giving you a headache, so you go, oh, I wish this guy would just stop. I'm getting a headache. Well, I'll tell you, if you get a headache, you can talk to your folks, talk to a grown-up and say, I got a really bad headache. Sometimes you just drink some water, that's all you need. Sometimes you might need to take some medicine. What's some medicine that you could take to get rid of a headache?
Willow.
Well, help me out here. A couple of intermediate steps. Okay, so let's just say you go to the medicine cabinet, and your mom or dad, uncle, aunt, grandma, grandpa pull it open and take out a jar of pink medicine.
Oh, I've had that.
Might be pink.
I've had that.
Begins with an A. Aspirin. Aspirin does not come from the drugstore. Aspirin comes from So if you have a bad headache, you could chew on willow leaves or on the bark or on a branch. Hey, if it goes away in a half an hour, the pain goes away, it might be worth. Well, do you like the taste of aspirin? Isn't that kind of disgusting? Well, there you go. So a lot of our medicines come from plants as well. Now the other one I want to talk about is turn around and look at that tree right there. We planted that. We the parties have planted that. But that's a very important tree that loves to grow next to streams. When the water runs through land, it chews up a lot of the dirt, scoots it away. So what's left? Just a bunch of rocks and kind of crummy dirt. Some plants like growing in that. That is one. That's called an alder. Let me hear that. Alder. Alders grow up in lousy dirt. I mean, the crummiest around, but they love to grow there. And those leaves take in lots of air, and they take in some of the air that's called nitrogen. Let me hear that. Nitrogen. There's a lot of nitrogen out here. And they pull it into their leaves, they change it, and they shove it in the ground. And when they shove that nitrogen in the ground, the ground gets pretty good. And the other plants going, hey, I'm kind of liking this nitrogen. I'm going to live here too. So these plants make the ground really rich for other things too. So if we see those, we're going, there's got to be some water around, and it's probably lousy soil, and they're making it better. Okay, yes?
That's where a barn owl could live because
It's a beautiful cavity in that tree where a barn owl could live. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's keep going, folks.
Really
You got stuff to see. Yes. And then Kevin showed me the same thing. And my name's Mike. And my two brothers' names are Joe and Kevin. Well, so Joe found them. But Kevin, what are? Could you hold? What are?
It's a walnut.
It's a walnut.
An English walnut?
Most likely English walnuts. Walnuts, we have walnuts that grow in California. My turn to talk, guys. They grow in California and have always grown here. But the nuts they make are like, not so great. So people thought, you know what to do? Those English walnuts back in England, I'm going to chop some of those off. And I'm going to bring them over here. And I'm going to chop this walnut and put the old one right on top of it. It's called grafting. They would chop the tree, glue another one on top, and they would grow. And they give us these walnuts. But you know what's a fun thing to do with these walnuts besides eating them is that they're great for artwork. Do you remember that? Remember this guy? The barn owl? When you crack these things open, look at the little face. And if you put, does anybody have an ink stamp? If you have an ink stamp, you can stamp it on there and you can make little barn owl faces all over the place. The furniture, the wall, ceiling. Just kidding. Oh yeah. See? Like